Hello, this is Rose Odette with the podcast this afternoon. And with me today, I have Karen Rieser, an author from Traverse City. Welcome to the podcast, Karen.
Thank you, Rose.
You bet. Well, I'm so excited to have Karen on board today. We met at the Cadillac Author Fair a couple weeks ago, and I was so excited to meet Karen. Her books are so exciting and so adorable. I just wanted to see if she would be willing to share her stories and share her experiences in her books with us on our podcast. And she was so gracious to agree. So here we are. We've got her here today for about an hour, and we're going to dive right in. But like we do for everybody, we like to find out their origin story. Who are you? Where'd you come from? And how did you become an author?
I've been around a while. Originally, I was born and raised in New Jersey, in Princeton, New Jersey, and I was educated there, but moved away to attend college.
Hmm.
But I chose to go to college in Illinois at McMurray College, where I got my BA in special education and general education, and moved on to Michigan and went to Western Michigan University, where I received my master's in special education. And I was fortunate enough in the late 70s to find a job. And my job was in Michigan. So my husband and I stayed in Michigan and created our family. I had a set of twins,
Oh, nice.
a boy and a girl. So we were really quite fortunate, and spent most of my family years raising my children and working as an educator, both. And
And where was that?
that was in Portage, Michigan.
Oh, I know where Portage is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little
Yes.
town.
And it was a very enjoyable town. It was still a town where you could raise your family and they could believe in the American dream. And both of my children have realized that dream.
Oh, congratulations. That's a
Thank
good feeling.
It is. My daughter went on to marry and have a child, a boy, Aiden, and Aiden has been my inspiration for some of my writing and the purpose for which I wrote, because I wanted to teach him to many little lessons, of course, and grandmas dote on their grandchildren tremendously.
They sure do.
And uh, after that, I retired, but I didn't get out of education yet. I still substitute teach for the TCAP schools. We decided to move to Traverse City because it is just a place we kept coming back to all the time. And for retirees, it's beautiful. You have a lovely environment, you have good medical care, you have very artistic people, all of which I enjoy.
Isn't that the truth? Traverse City is just such a beautiful place. I love going there. I know that they have so many things to offer. When I worked for IBM, I worked in the Traverse City office for 5 years. And so I was lucky enough to go to Traverse City every day. I didn't really enjoy that drive in the middle of the winter,
I can imagine.
but it was a wonderful place to go every day. And it's just growing, and it just keeps getting better and better.
It does. And we feel privileged every day to wake up and see the wonderful West Bay, to be able to go take advantage of all that the city has to offer.
That's right. That's really cool. Well, what a great background. I can't wait. So you're an educator, you worked in the school systems, and you still do. Good for you. Well, let's get into your books. I know that you'll tell us about your titles, and let's talk about those books, and let's get started.
Well, the first book I wrote was Aiden's Tree, still is Aiden's Tree. And Aiden's Tree was
Wait
in,
for a second. Wait. There's Aiden's tree. Isn't that pretty? That's a beautiful cover.
it is, and I had a wonderful illustrator to work with on this book. Aiden's Tree was inspired by my grandson. I wrote him little books all the time to explain various things in life. And one
I want to
day,
speak at it again.
after a wonderful visit at Christmas time, I asked him, being the earth mother I am, Aiden, would you like to recycle the Christmas tree with Grandma and Grandpa? Well, he was absolutely shocked. No one destroys the Christmas tree. We had made sure he had a live Christmas tree, but you still didn't destroy it. The Christmas tree is the Christmas tree, and you may not see it, but it goes into some magic place, not into a grinder. And I thought, oh, Aiden, I need to teach you that your tree had a life before you, it had a life with you, and it has a life after you. So I spent that winter writing this book and doing the illustrations, and it was taking it to the office printer and having it bound. And it was just a little book for him to explore.
Oh my gosh, what a great story. I can't wait to definitely gonna buy this so you can't take it back with you.
We I started taking my little book into the classroom when I would substitute teach, and the reading it to my students during the winter, and they loved it. And one set of students said, "Oh, Mrs. Rieser, you've got to make this into a real book." And I thought, "Yeah, okay, you're very nice. You like your teacher." And I took it home and it sat on my desk for a while. But I got to thinking, children know what they like. And we have a in Traverse City a fabulous publisher called Mission Peninsula Press, and I was able to take my crude little drawing book into them, and they reviewed it and came to me and said, "You have a great story, but your illustrations are a little flat." Oh, yes, they definitely were. And, but they were willing to take on the story. And together we found an illustrator, also from Traverse City, also having gone through the Traverse area schools. Um, and this was the first book he illustrated.
Hmm.
And he's done a fabulous job. He, uh,
Yeah, here's some of the illustrations.
I asked him to keep it geographically accurate and to keep it real for a young child.
Mhm.
And one of the pictures in there is when the tree does end up on a tree lot, Christmas tree lot, that it looked like just like the lot that was always at Barton's.
Mm.
And he was able to do that. So there's a little personal touch in there as well.
Oh, wonderful. Well, that is so heartwarming. I can't wait to read it to my granddaughter. She's 5.
Oh, it is absolutely perfect.
Oh, perfect. Yes. What a great. Well, what does Aiden think about this book? How
Um,
old is Aiden now?
oh my, Aiden's 16 now, going to be 17
Okay.
shortly.
Okay.
And he was very taken aback when a young boy in our neighborhood, I asked him if he was Aiden of Aiden's Tree. And he was kind of shocked, like, who
He's
knows grandma
famous.
stuff? Um,
Oh, that's
but he
great.
does like the book. But at age 16, 17, we don't talk about it too very much.
No, not till he has kids. Probably
Right,
once he has kids,
right.
this is going to be the number one book on the bookshelf. That's great. Well, that's awesome. All right, let's go to the next book you
My
wrote.
second book is also a work of fiction, but this book is based on a true story. And as my twins were growing older, everything came at once. And as became young adults and busy with work, my summers were pretty lonely, and I needed to find something to entertain myself. So I became a docent at a zoo nearby.
Okay.
And to do that, I had to go to school all winter long on Tuesdays for 3 hours with homework and the whole 9 yards. And uh, I worked at the zoo for 3 years before I retired up to Traverse City. And I still to this day miss it dearly. And part of the this zoo is a special zoo. It's an AZA zoo, which means that it's part of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. And to be part of that association, the zoo must um, operate at some very high standards that are inspected and worked with yearly by the association. The zoo also is a caretaker of endangered species.
Which zoo is this? What's it
This
called?
is the Binder Park Zoo in
Oh, I've been
Battle
to that.
Creek.
Yes, that's
Yes,
a really cool zoo. I went to their Christmas lights show one
yes,
year. Very
yes.
beautiful.
Well, at the zoo, I went to a volunteer luncheon, and during that luncheon, the director just sort of made a remark I don't think he had planned to make about a dog they had gotten from a shelter in Grand Rapids that was just a mess. But the
Hmm.
dog was a nursing mother, no puppies to be found. And they had a African wild dog who had rejected her pup.
Hmm.
And they brought these two together. And that was that. That's all he told me and everybody else there. So when I rushed up to him and I said, "What's going to happen to the dog? What's going to happen to the dog?" And he said, "The dog was very valuable that because it would cross species." And I just left that luncheon thinking, what is this really all about? So I decided, well, you're just going to write a story about what it's really all about because there are just so many good messages in this story. And so I created with my imagination what happened before, what happened during, and what happened after. So it's loosely based on a real story,
Mm-hmm.
but the story did not actually take place as um, my written account
Mm-hmm.
did.
Awesome. It sounds really, really interesting. And we just love dogs. Dogs are, and you've got an African wild dogs with a lab,
Black Lab.
black lab.
And in my, I changed some of the facts of the story. In mine, there were two pups that were deserted,
Mm-hmm.
um, not one. And I'm not sure it was a black lab that was rescued,
Mm-hmm.
but my friend rescued a black lab who was lactating, who had been roaming the streets of Kalamazoo. And so I patterned this dog, this character, after her dog, Fiona.
Oh, that's good. That's great. I love a dog story. Dog stories are always so heartwarming, especially when you have little puppies who need um, a mommy.
Yes. And what is amazing right now is this story, not as I told it, but this story is taking place once again in the South Bend Zoo. It's the Potawatomi Zoo, actually, in South Bend, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
They had many pups rejected and found a golden lab for the Humane Society to come, who was nursing, to come and nurse them.
Well, so how do these dogs end up at the zoo?
Well, the domestic ones,
Right.
the Humane Society found one for the
Oh,
zoo, and
okay.
the owners evidently okayed this. And the Binder Park Zoo, they went out looking for a dog.
Mm,
So and found this dog. Uh,
that's really fascinating. I just can't wait to read that book. This is so exciting. This is so fun. What do you have next?
well, next I went into nonfiction. As an educator, I had received a email from a friend who was talking about the latest innovation in teaching reading. And as I read through it, I thought, oh my gosh, most of that is how I used to teach. You read across the curriculum, then you get science, social studying, and reading all taught at one time, and you
Wow.
get some interest. And so I started to think, how many times over the centuries have old methods been repackaged and used once more? Each of these methods becoming maybe a little better with every with every turn. So I decided, well, let's research it. Let's look it up. And I started this with Native American education.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked with Old Mission Peninsula because that's where I live. But I had found that this is really the story of education in the Midwest as the settlers moved across.
Okay.
And so we go through, well, Native American history, all the way through the advent of the newest charter school on the peninsula.
Oh my gosh, that sounds fascinating. Here's this book. Old Mission Peninsula, for those of you that are a little bit not as astute with geography, is a peninsula that juts out in the Grand Traverse Bay, and it splits the bay in half. So you'll have East Bay and West Bay, and in the middle of Grand Traverse Bay, there's a peninsula that is how many miles wide is
It's
it?
18 miles long and at its widest, it's 6 miles
So it's
wide.
can be 6 miles wide, 18 miles long, and it was uh, pioneered. And during the pioneering era, Karen has done a deep dive in the methods of education through the 150 years.
Oh, even more, the Native Americans occupied the peninsula for thousands of years. Some just
Wow.
passed through, others made it their home. They came and they left, and then they came back.
Wow.
So the peninsula has been inhabited for thousands of years.
And Anishibet.
Anishinaabe,
Oh, what's that?
that is a tribe of Native Americans who lived on the peninsula.
I never heard that name
Also
before.
in Wisconsin, Canada. Uh, they, oh, I hope I remember this right. They are part of the Algonquin
Okay.
Nation.
Wow, that's very fascinating. That's so amazing. I'm so excited. I can't wait to read. I really hope I can buy all these books
Oh,
before you
yes.
leave. Thank you. So these are amazing and really appreciate you taking us through these books. I have a question before we dive into some of these. I have some other questions that I want to ask, but
Sure.
how long does it take you to write Fiona Finds Her Purpose?
That was an interesting one. I thought and thought and thought about it probably for a year or two. And then one day I woke up and I wanted to write. But my writing process is somewhat complicated because as I wrote down just little notes of what I wanted to be in the book, one of the things I do for all my books is to research.
Mm,
And this one took a lot of research. I needed to research African wild dogs
yeah.
and learn how they live in the wild and in captivity. There's a fabulous family structure within the pack of dogs. One prominent point is that there is an alpha female and an alpha male, and the female is the only one to bring a litter into the pack.
Mm,
The female, then the other females of the pack help her raise and nurture the pups.
mm,
And it moves on from there. The female really is a lot more powerful than the male.
mm.
The male protects everybody, and the male, the subordinate males also help with the pups. And there's a complicated hierarchy. However, and this is one of the premise of the book, the occasionally a subordinate female will become pregnant.
Mm,
And that is a real no-no. And she will be chased out of the pack.
mhm,
Hopefully, um, the gentleman who did the deed will go with her.
mhm,
And a new pack, if they are successful, which is really hard because the initial pack controls most of the area,
mm.
they will start a new pack. That's not what happens in this book, however. but that is brought in to
So you
with the
do a lot
information.
of research.
So
You
a
do.
lot of research. I also needed to research. I used a lot of the information I had learned in my classes about AZA zoos and
Hmm.
species survival plans. I researched the Humane Society and the structure of shelters there. So once I had all that research gathered, and it doesn't usually stop there because something usually comes up and you look through again, then I sat down to write. And when I write, that's all I do. I ignore the finer points of the English language, punctuation, paragraphing. I just want to get all my ideas down. And once that happens, then I go back and I rewrite and I rewrite and I rewrite. Fiona finds her purpose. The initial writing took me over. It was like I was mesmerized by it. And I got up early every morning and I worked on it till bedtime for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And that was only for the initial writing. The rewriting took a lot longer. I have my books edited. Of course, when I hand them over to my editor, I think they're just perfect. And oh, wow. And this book, the most amusing to me suggestion by my editor is, are you going to name the zoo? I kept calling it the zoo, the zoo, the zoo. So um, that's one of many things that she helped me to refine
How'd
this
you
book.
find your editor?
I was really very lucky. I went to our local library on the
Hmm.
peninsula and I asked the librarian if she was aware of anybody who edits books
Yep.
in the area. And it doesn't really have to be in the area, but I do have a wonderful woman who does edit books and she's actually done all three of these for me.
Wow, that's awesome. You have a local publisher and you have a local editor.
Mhm.
That takes a lot of,
And for Fiona, I have a local illustrator as well.
oh my.
His name is Derek Bovin, and he's just graduated from North Michigan College. He's a 40-year-old graduate who is loves art and his work. He also researched, and his work is adds so much to the book.
I just respect you so much. You've done such great research and you've got such a good network that's working with you to do these books. That's awesome. Well, would you m- just let us know what kind of messages are important to you and the messages that you'd like to leave your readers with once they've completed your book? What are your key messages?
In both of my works of fiction, and in most of the time that I taught in school, my message was to respect nature, to trust
Mm.
nature. I would like people to read this book and walk away with a greater understanding of how the world works in terms of the nature of the world,
Mm.
to have a respect for that nature, to value the flora and the fauna that surround us. I had a mother once tell me that she would be forever grateful to me because as her son was playing soccer, and he was a rough and tough boy like most,
Mm.
and he was a fourth grader, that he saw a caterpillar on the ground. And he picked that caterpillar up and he went and he put it on the leaf of a plant. Our classroom raised monarch caterpillars. And so he was quite an expert on
Mm.
the journey that little caterpillar was going to take. And she just said, to see him care about that little caterpillar at the as a fourth grade tough guy soccer player just gladdened her heart. And
Aw,
so I would like,
what a great story.
oh, I remember that one because it
Yeah,
gladdened mine as well.
yeah, that's really, really touching.
One of the things in Fiona Finds Her Purpose I discuss, and this really is for children, maybe a fifth grader, but sixth grade up, I discuss some abuse
Oh,
with dogs. And that's why I'd like children to be older. But I
mm,
would like them to be aware that such a thing exists and it's not right.
mm,
And um, how wonderfully things can work out. And to understand the role that zoos play
Mm.
in protecting these endangered species. A zoo is no longer a place where animals are caged. Um, Particularly Binder Park Zoo, you walk on a boardwalk and you have confines, but the animals have wide open
Oh, that's
spaces.
good to know.
Mhm.
I think that that message is so important to get out in this world because I think that a lot of people have the old model in their mind when they think about zoos. And
Yes, yes.
I think that that view and that new reality, what's happening in the zoos should be more, and that's expressed in this book.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Uh,
Fiona finds her purpose. And so just so you remember, this is Fiona finds her
and the
purpose.
hard work they do to keep species healthy. The original pup from the Binder Park Zoo, I believe, was placed in a pack out in somewhere in California.
Huh.
So to do that, all the genetics were looked into
Hmm.
so that you had a healthy gene pool.
Wow.
The animal was not just expected to stay with family
Hmm.
and reproduce.
That's
So,
really fascinating.
and we have people who are experts. As far as Aiden finds Aiden's tree, this promotes life cycles
Oh, okay.
because we start with the tree growing in a tree nursery. And in the end, there is a tree growing where some of the chips were spread. And
Oh,
could that be Aiden's tree?
okay.
So,
The circle of life.
yes.
Okay.
And included in the book is a short history as to why we have the Mackinac Ice Bridge. The
Oh, and they have the Christmas trees that line it.
Yes, yes,
Okay, I remember that.
because the tree does end up there. And also, uh, one little ornament is forgotten on the tree.
Okay.
So any illustration you see after the tree is dropped off, we put on the ice bridge, will have, if it's Aiden's tree, a little ornament on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun to watch for that ornament for the children. And I also found that as I read it to children, they did not understand how pine trees reproduce. So there is a section in the back of the book explaining that for children. So if your child is young, probably not so interested, but mom and dad might. And then there's a picture of the real Aiden's tree he brought home in second grade on
Oh my
Arbor Day.
goodness.
And the history probably should be read by an adult first because there was a tragedy that
Okay.
occurred that made the Christmas tree line the ice bridge.
Wow, I can't wait. Now there's a mystery. I have to figure out what happened there. And then the inspiration and the message behind the history of education on Old Mission Peninsula. What is your message and mission behind that?
One of I had to laugh because what I did find, one is that the educational procedures were not very different than the rest of the Midwest. Secondly, that from the Native Americans through today, educational methods and practices for the most part have been combined, um, each time getting a little better. The one major difference now is the computer. It can give you information in real time,
Hmm.
which is a nice thing. Um, how innovative people are and how much people want an education. The settlers coming here were probably most of them denied an education. The education was for the elite.
Hmm.
And they wanted to keep it that way because that made it easier to control the lesser populations. So coming here to find your new life, to know you could educate your child was the cherry on top of the sundae.
Hmm.
So some of the places there were schools were barns, um, homes, attics. There was an old enclosure for a bull. The bull was no longer there, so they had school there. Uh, there was a school for adults in a schooner.
Really? That's amazing.
A very prominent Traverse City resident, S.E. Waite, was a young boy, and he had graduated from school and he was a teacher, and he was hired by four, well, it turned out to be five because the cook had no choice, by four sailors to teach them. They anchored in Bowers Harbor over the winter how to read and do arithmetic, because without those skills, they didn't feel they were going anywhere.
Oh my gosh.
And for the four brothers were Fitzgeralds.
Oh,
And so 2 generations later, Edmund Fitzgerald, a great grandson of one of them, um, who ran an insurance company, I believe out of Chicago, had a ship named after him. So I think they became very successful uh, with their education.
and we all know what happened to that ship.
I know,
Unfortunately,
but
that was a great song.
yes.
What was the name of that song? The
Well, I think it's called the Edmund Fitzgerald.
The Wreck of the
The
Edmund
Wreck of-
Fitzgerald. That's right. That was a great song by
Gordon Lightfoot.
Gordon Lightfoot, yes. So his the
young men who were schooled on the schooner, the four sailors, were Fitzgerald brothers.
That's
The
amazing.
cook, he just got educated because he was there.
Because he was there. Lucky for him.
Lucky for him is
I-
right.
I'm excited to read this as well. That is, and if you've not been to Old Mission Peninsula, really should go out there. It's so beautiful and it's got such a rich history. And now we even know how much richer the history is with this great, great deep dive into the education of the folks out there on that peninsula during the many years, many years back from the Indians till today's charter school. Karen, this is just awesome. I just love these books. And I'm happy you went into the nonfiction world a little bit. I love children's books and nonfiction. I love I'm trying to write a children's book too, and also some nonfiction. So I'm asking questions to kind of figure out my own path. Don't we all have a book inside of us?
Well, and it's a wonderful thing to do.
So I understand that you have these books in and around the area, more than just Amazon.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So tell us where we can find these books because we want to get our hands on them as soon as possible.
Well, I really would like to promote the local bookstores. To me, they have been my support and my guide in so many ways. And one of the bookstores that's been with me since the very beginning and has spent time talking to me and giving me ideas as far as marketing, which is the hardest part, is Horizon Books, both in Traverse City and in Cadillac. Matter of fact, it was Cadillac who invited me to the book market, and they have carried my books for years. So I can't say enough about those two stores. If you can't find it there, not only my book, but any book, they will hunt it up for you. So they're real supporters of literature and entertainment, but also knowledge. And the store, both of them are very unique. Their aim, I did a magazine article about Horizon Books and no one would let Horizon Books close. They were going to close.
Oh,
So
no, that would be
I wrote
horrible.
an article, and their aim was to make their store your third place, meaning your first place is your home, your second place is your job. Where else do you want to spend part of your life? In your third place. And by being a third place, people do love spending time at the Horizon bookstores and participating in all the special programs they offer.
Well, I have to say I have a special spot in my heart for Horizon Books too, because I'm big into Toastmasters. And they open their doors up to Toastmasters in Traverse City and in Cadillac. So if you are a member of Toastmasters or go to Toastmasters, you'll find yourself in and amongst those wonderful books and listening to some great speeches.
Oh, yes.
So they're very giving, very fun too.
Absolutely.
When I had the librarian, I had the head of the Cadillac Library here the other day, and she was on a podcast and she told us about Horizon and the Cadillac Library partner with a book club series called Booze and Books. So if
Oh,
you want to have a little wine and join a book club, our Horizon Books in Cadillac, we go to the Willow, which is a local establishment, and I think it's the third Monday or the fourth Monday of every month. And Horizon's there with the library, with the Willow. And I have to tell you, there's probably 50 people at this event, if
oh,
not
wow.
more. It's a great event, and Horizon's right in the thick of that as well. So I'm with you regarding Horizon Books. And so we can find your books at Horizon Books. Where
Yes, you
else can we
can.
find these books?
Well, there's a wonderful store that promotes cherry products in Traverse City called Benjamin Twig. And Benjamin Twig carries Aiden's tree. And many a tourist has walked off with their little piece of Michigan from Benjamin Twigs, and some of it's been Aiden's tree.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I love Benjamin Twig. And so that sounds good. So if you're in Traverse City, then you could stop at Benjamin Twig, which is a fun store to go to, and you can pick up a copy of Aiden's book there. Where else can we find your books?
Well, if you're summering in Saugatuck, um, with their wonderful beaches and their quaint town and lovely restaurants, stop by the Book Nook. Uh, this is a store that used to just deal mostly, I guess, in used books, but now it's new and used books.
Hmm.
They have moved downtown to an awesome location. Um, and they have the cutest brand new store with just a whole variety of subjects that you can buy a book and take it to the beach and warm up in the sun and enjoy the surf um, in Saugatuck.
Saugatuck is such a cute town,
It
and
is.
it's so pretty right there on Lake Michigan. It's amazing. Ah, well, we'll have to make a trip down there this summer. And so tell us more.
Well, Kalamazoo, I was in and around Kalamazoo for a lot of my life. And it made me chuckle when you talked about booze and books because there's a store called Colors and Cocktails on the Kalamazoo
Oh,
Mall.
it's got kind of a similar
It
theme.
does, and it's wonderful. The store has two main purposes. It sells art. Much of their art is from their patrons. Um, they give art classes downstairs where you can bring your own cocktail or wine or beverage, sit with fellow artists and create. The woman who runs the store is an artist and teaches many different art forms. Uh, she would go to bars also. That's how the name originated, Colors and Cocktails.
Wow.
But now she's got a static place, but she may still go out to occasional places. And everyone has such a good time, comes home with a piece of their own individual artwork. And some of the artwork is sold in the store. And it's a very nice place to go. And sitting on the Kalamazoo Mall is very pleasant.
Mhm.
And so that would surely be a place
Mhm.
to go.
I know my daughter went to Western too, and
Uh,
she really misses the artsy aspects of Kalamazoo. It's very
yes.
artistic. Oh, I love that. Now let's go back up north. And where else can we find your book?
If you're visiting Mackinac Island, and I certainly hope you do, because it is well worth a visit, and because Aiden's tree was part of the Mackinac Ice Bridge, um, you will find Aiden's tree at the Island Bookstore. You'll also
Oh,
find Fiona Finds Her Purpose there. It is a fabulous bookstore again, finding all sorts of books that you can take to the beach. I talked to another gentleman a while back, and he has a mystery that he wrote about Mackinac Island, and his book is available
ooh,
there as well. Don't remember the title, but this bookstore caters to people's interests for summer reads. some of it historical, some of it based on Mackinac Island, but other books as well. And Mackinac Island is so much fun.
Isn't it? We're going up on June 14th, 15th, and 16th for a legal conference. And so we're gonna really enjoy it. And this bookstore, if I remember correctly, it's on the main drag through Mackinac Island's main street, but it's kind of in a little bit of a mall that's set back. Isn't that right? Isn't that where the
I
bookstore?
think it is. I
So
think it
it's
is.
not on the right on the main street, but if you are on the main street and it's on the island side, not the water side, as I recall.
And it's Island Bookstore.
Island Bookstore, yes. I'll definitely do that. And it's such a great thing to do, when you're on the island and you're enjoying the fudge and you're wandering
Yes.
up and down. Wouldn't this be a great treasure find to say, hey, I'm going to find Aiden's book in the bookstore on Mackinac Island when I go up there this summer. So I think that would be a fun little adventure.
And take it home, read it around Christmas time, and just remember this wonderful warm adventure you had.
Right. All that would be really great. And then you have one spot in the middle of the state. It looks like you can go and pick up.
Well, if you're headed up to Mackinac Island, you can also stop at a brand new store. Matter of fact, it's her second year, called 7 Elements. And this store is
Oh, and that's in Mackinac City.
That's in Mackinac City. And this store also caters to local art, all Michigan, definitely.
Okay.
Pretty much the west side of Michigan. And she has fabulous pieces. And what I just so enjoy about her is that she sees writing and books as an art form.
Wow.
So she has my books among beautiful wooden sculptures, stained glass, oil paintings, photographs,
Wow.
cards.
Is that why it's 7 elements? Like different 7
Yes.
pieces? Art is in 7 different. I don't think I could count all 7 arts. Do you
Not
know?
anymore. I
Yeah.
probably did for some art history class.
I don't know the
but-
7, but I bet that. So there's music, there's, painting, writing, singing, art, acting.
Probably, yes, a theater.
Yeah. And then opera. I don't know. I'm over my head. Well, that is awesome. And then it looks like you have a spot in Grayling.
I do. And it's called Tip of the Mitt. And it's run by 2 fabulous women, where it just keeps growing and growing. When I first met them, it was a gift shop. Now they have fabulous coffee, lattes for sale.
I can always go for that.
Yes. One of my favorites. They're also, it's also a floral shop. It's a shop where you can sit and be extremely comfortable with these women or any of the other people that are working there. It's a lively place. One of the aspects I like is it's veteran owned.
Oh, I love that.
And so they carry both Aiden's Tree and Fiona Finds Her Purpose, and some tremendous ice cream. So if you want to start your visit with a latte and a good book and end it with an ice cream cone, this would be the place to go.
Oh, that sounds like a perfect summer outing.
It is. It is.
Well, and I'm sure you're on the internets as well, correct?
Yes, I do have a Facebook page. You would reach it at Karen Rieser, author. And Rieser is a German name and really should be pronounced Rieser, but it's been anglicized a little bit to Rieser, but it's still spelled Rieser.
Awesome. So you can find her on Facebook as an author, Karen Rieser, Rieser. Wonderful. Well, I wanted to make sure that you have an opportunity to share your inspiration, your background, your books, your love of education, your love of writing with us today. Have we missed anything that you wanted to chat with us about today?
I don't think so. That was more than I thought I had in me to begin
Oh,
with.
oh, you did an amazing job. Well, I have to ask you one last question, and that is, what is your favorite thing about Northern Michigan?
Oh my goodness. I would say the environment, the water, the trees, the wildflowers, the I encourage all this wildlife, and have written about some of it in Michigan, the deer. I wrote an article called Reading the Snow
Oh
to
my.
see what little animals had been running around my house by the tracks that they left, from mice to rabbits to deer to raccoon, the crows,
Oh
um,
God,
who
yes.
leave me presents in the bird bath. And um, just the interesting places in the history involved. There's a great deal of history on the peninsula. I did a presentation along with 5 other people on my team for the Peter Doherty's replica log church, a replica of Peter Doherty's first church. Peter Doherty was a missionary who came to the peninsula in the 1840s.
Oh.
And down the street is his house, which is also a wonderful place to
Oh my
visit.
gosh. Well, I have to make it, and Karen, I'm coming up. I'm
Oh,
gonna
don't
come up.
forget the lighthouse. I
eh,
mean, it's Michigan is just full of so much adventure.
We need to spend some time on Mackinac Island or Old Mission Peninsula with Karen. Sounds like she surely has the inside track on all of the really interesting things to do there. And I agree with you, the nature, and I love that you bring nature into your books as well. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast, and we look forward to reading your books. And I do want to ask you, do you have any other books in mind? Are you writing anything new?
I am beginning to think that writing, teachers say, oh, I should have written that down, make a book someday.
Hmm.
I thought perhaps some of my adventures in teaching would be worth
Oh, yeah.
a chapter or two, starting from when I was as green can be, and some of the things that I learned all the way up to my substitute teaching days
Oh, I
today.
love that. I bet that would be really a good one. I think please do it. I'm going to encourage you to do that. Well, thank you very much, Karen, and
Well,
thank
thank
you.
you.
You're welcome. This is a pleasure. You're such a delight. We really enjoyed having Karen on the podcast today. And until next time, have a great time in Northern Michigan.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.